I'd like to call to order the Hatfield Township Board of Commissioners Workshop Meeting for May 11, 2022. Roll call.
President Zipfel.
Here.
Vice President Rogers.
Here.
Commissioner Andrus.
Here.
Commissioner Lees.
Here.
Commissioner Zimmerman.
Here.
So for tonight's Pledge of Allegiance, I'm going to ask a dear friend of mine who is in our audience this evening, Kamlesh Patel, who is not only a BAPS member but also leader, to join us and to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening. If you would, Kamlesh.
Public for which
One of the ways we like to keep people on their toes when they come to meetings, but also to tell them that thank you and we appreciate everything that you've done for the township, is by embarrassingly putting them on the spot. And so many of you who are here probably know that we're happy to be reviewing a development for BAPS this evening, and we'll get to that shortly. In the meantime, or I should say before that, I will entertain a motion for approval of tonight's agenda so that we can move forward. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Lees.
Second.
Second by Vice President Rogers. All in favor of approving the agenda before you, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, we can move forward with this evening's agenda. Citizens' comments. Are there any citizens' comments on agenda items only? No? Okay. So we'll move on to the consent items. Is there a motion to enter into the record the consent items listed in the agenda? Motion by Commissioner Andrus.
Second.
By Vice President Rogers. Those consent items include the police report for the month of April, the HTMA monthly budget report for the month of March, the HTMA monthly meeting minutes for March 8, 2022. And with that, I'll call the question. All in favor of moving those into the record, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. Okay, we have a special recognition this evening. Commissioner Lees is going to walk us through that. We're very happy to do it. So I'll just take the motion. Is there a motion for approval with regard to Resolution 22-07, recognize its recognition of EMS Week?
So moved.
By Commissioner Lees, second by Commissioner Zimmerman. And with that, I'm going to hand the ball off to Commissioner Lees to walk us through a little bit of information about it, and then also the recognition itself.
Thank you, Mr. President. A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Hatfield Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, recognizing Emerging Medical Services Week. Whereas, in 1974, President Gerald Ford authorized the Emergency Medical Services Week to celebrate EMS practitioners and the important work they do in our nation's communities. And whereas EMS providers are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden injury or illnesses. And whereas through service, compassion, and dedication, EMS providers represent the very best of public service. And whereas this year's theme is Rising to the Challenge, which is especially significant after the first responders continue to provide essential services during our worldwide pandemic. And whereas National Emergency Services Week brings together local communities and medical personnel to honor the dedication of those who provide day-to-day life-saving services. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of Hatfield Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, that we hereby recognize the week from May 15th, 2022 through May 21st, 2022 as National EMS Week. Resolved at the duly convened meeting of the Board of Commissioners of Hatfield Township conducted on this 11th day of May, 2022.
Great, so that is our recognition for EMS Week. With that, I'm going to we've already have the motion. Now I'm going, unless there's any questions or comments, obviously it's well said, it's well earned, and we're happy to pass the recognition. Any other questions or comments?
President, I just wanted to make one note. I think it's important that people realize Commissioner Lees is a EMS provider, and that's why we had him read that tonight, and he does a lot of good work throughout the community, so we appreciate that and thank him for that.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I'll call a question. All in favor of Resolution 22-07, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved, and that recognition should be duly noted.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move into committee reports. First is Planning and Zoning Committee, Vice President Rogers.
Thank you, sir. First item is Prime Car Wash. at 1250 Bethlehem Pike. Amy, do you have that?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Rogers. This is a second phase of the new portion of the 309 Plaza development at the corner of Orvilla and Route 309. Star, let me pointers here, see if I can find one that works. The star is the general location of the 309 Plaza property, and several years ago, the original plaza was expanded by adding the corner right at Bethlehem Pike and Orvilla Road. The first phase of that addition was done when the Wendy's was approved several years ago, and the second phase is this portion right at the corner, and that will be a car wash. This is the overall plan, slightly different orientation. The existing older portion of the development is here. The Wendy's is over here, and the proposed car wash is right here. With this second phase, the developer will be completing the car wash, and the original shopping center developer, who is the developer of the overall tract, will be finishing all of the stormwater improvements and the frontage improvements around Orvilla Road and Route 309. I think we're all familiar with a lot of those improvements that are under construction and have been under construction for quite some time with the winter weather. But my understanding is they hope to be making some significant progress through the rest of this month. The project has been reviewed and recommended for approval by the Montgomery County Planning Commission, by the Hatfield Township Planning Commission, and by the Planning and Zoning Committee. There are, I believe, 3 waivers that have been requested by the applicant. Andy Schlosser is here from the firm of Schlosser and Klaus, the engineer for the project, and I think he will explain those waivers and answer any questions that the board might have.
Thank you, Ken. Yeah, so there are actually, we're in need of 4 waivers at this point. The first one I think I'd like to address is the ordinance requires preliminary and final approval to be separate, and we'd like to just take the step and have them done at one shot since we're so far along with the process. The second one is regarding rolled curb. So this being a car wash, we see a lot of traffic through here, and instead of doing the standard 8-inch reveal upright curb, we'd like to install rolled curb in the interior section here, where we have a lot of traffic coming in around through here, and just in the idea being that there's a lot of potential for tire damage if they get too close to the curb and clip it a little bit, since there is so much traffic moving around here, that this interior portion would have what's known as a rolled curb, and it just has a softer edge to it so that if you do catch it, it doesn't damage your tires. The third one is with regards to the planting of trees. We have a location here where the driveway gets up fairly close to the right-of-way here, and we don't have room for the large shade trees to be in this section right in here. And so what we're proposing is to shift these trees over into this section. And Aaron, do you have the landscaping plan?
I do not. These are the only slides.
So there are a lot of street trees in here, but the ordinance requires a separation of 40 to 50 feet. And in order to keep these trees in along this frontage here, we've put them together closer than the ordinance allows. Then over in this section, there's going to be a large water vault in here that North Penn Water Authority is going to require. And because of that, and because of the way the water pipes come in out of the street and in and out of that vault, we don't have room for all the street trees. So we're going to end up being short 2 street trees because of that water vault. And so that's the waiver request that we have. Has to do with the spacing of the trees along 309 and then dropping 2 trees along Orvilla. The fourth one is a new one. So we're still in process with Montgomery County Conservation District. And so this Wendy's was built in around 2018, and all the design work was done under the MPDS requirements that were valid at that time. We have a new set of requirements, and as a result, this section that has existing detention basin and even an underground storage system here needs to be expanded pretty dramatically. And it requires a multi-stage level type of system, and that has a lot of vertical component to it. And as a result, from the underground storm sewer system down to this existing swale down along Orvilla Road, there isn't quite enough fall, and we're just talking about a couple of inches here. And as a result, the pipe that comes out of our detention basin now is flatter than the ordinance requires. So instead of 0.5% slope, we have it at 0.4% slope. So I think that's going to still be steep enough that it's not going to be a problem, but it is a ordinance requirement that we would need a waiver for. So that's the fourth waiver that we'd be looking for.
I have a couple of questions. First is, I counted 5, so maybe 2 of these waivers are one of the same. Let me ask about the trees. The trees along that you wanted to slide further down and put closer together, are we still talking about the same number of trees?
Yes, along 309, we're talking about the same number of trees. The difference is the water vault in here and the water lines that come in and out of that water vault take up enough space that we really need to just pull. We've pushed them down and tightened them up along here as well, but it's just a large enough space that we can't fit all of them in there. So we're just asking for relief on 2 of those trees. Now, if we had the landscaping plan, you would be able to see that the water vault sits right around in here. And then we do have trees that are in this section, but they aren't considered street trees because they're too far away. So they fall under a different category of planting. There are trees in this section, just not out here along the right-of-way.
And so that would still have the same number of trees, but just in a different location.
So those actually fall under, I mean, you have a pretty extensive planting requirement. So
We do.
those actually fall under a different classification of plants. So they are technically not street trees. They're not street trees that are, it's not like we took street trees and pushed them back closer to the building. They're trees that apply to the building planting requirements.
Oh, okay, I understand. Now I understand why I had 5 waivers. The trees on both sides of the building, that's all part of one waiver.
I believe so.
Must be, otherwise you're at 5 waivers. So, okay.
I think they fall under the same section of the ordinance, so I think technically it's one, although it's 2 issues that need to be addressed.
Got it. Okay. Those are my only questions. I've had a number of people ask recently, just so you know why. And so the folks who are here know why I'm asking it. We've had a number of different developments, adjustments to properties, whatever, where trees have been taken down, and people have come to me in particular and said, what happens? How do you account for those, and what's the plan? And the plan, of course, as we talked about at our last meeting, is that they're to either be replaced, or if they're not replaced at that location, then they are counted, and then there is an economic mechanism that allows for replanting of trees at other parts in the township. So I'm reiterating that, not just for the people here, but the people who are watching, so they know that if there were trees that are taken down, and that's not your scenario right here, but if there were trees taken down, we don't have this mass reduction in trees somehow. We are very diligent in making sure that we follow our ordinances and our codes associated with trees and shrubs. So I appreciate your taking that into consideration when you were asking for the adjustment.
Sure, absolutely.
A couple questions here. So for the stormwater management, the multi-layer staging, the waiver you're requesting is the pitch or the slope.
That's correct.
So put that system in place to the new ordinance.
Correct.
Rolled curb. So what do you call the first curb? Straight curb? What's that called?
Just a straight up 8-inch curb, 8-inch reveal curb.
My interpretation of that is the 8-inch reveal curb is a cement curb. And a rolled curb. All right?
It was my understanding that they were both cement curbs.
Both cement curbs? Ken?
As-
Do you know that to be different, Ken?
I believe they're both shown as concrete curbs.
Okay,
I think,
all right.
and Brian's nodding, so I think I'm correct.
All right, so straight to roll, I'm fine with. I would insist it to be concrete. I've seen too many rolled curbs that just fall apart over time.
Yeah, that's what they're planning on anyway, so.
Fantastic. All right, thank you.
What type of car wash is this? Attic?
Fred, do you want to address?
Brett, do you mind just going to the mic? Sorry. Worded and we lose you if you're not on the mic.
Hi, Fred Leeds, one of the partners working on building this car wash. It is a full-service car wash, so you will come in through a queue and then go through a tunnel. Come out of the tunnel, you can either leave or you can go through the full-service bays where you get vacuumed, you get your tires shined, etc. So it's completely full service.
Would it be similar to the one at, on 309 and, right near the Montgomeryville Mall?
Similar. Higher quality, higher service, but similar.
So,
Smart answer. Smart
yeah,
answer.
that-
Well played.
Good response. So how much of the water do you actually recycle?
I was not expecting this question. We have a multi-phased tank system that all of the water will go through the recycler. And then there's water separators, oil separators. It's very environmentally conscientious. The amount of water that is recycled, I don't know off the top of my head, but I can have that for you in 2 weeks.
And then one last question, the buffer with the residential area, is that going to be completed when the water retention basin is done? Is there any type of buffer there?
Yes,
That
that
buffer
is
was-
part of the planting requirements, and we will be in compliance with that.
All right, thank you.
I don't have a question on your waivers, but I was letter, and just out of curiosity, I see that you were going to originally have like 400, over 400 parking spaces. Now, it's not that many, but it's still 385. Is that parking, what do you need all that many spaces for cars?
There have been a number of different proposals for this section right in here. And your use is what drives your requirements for parking. So these were at one point smaller buildings that would have, the users, proposed users would have needed more parking spaces. So those are, with this car wash going in, it changed the parking requirements for, a restaurant requires a lot more parking than a car wash does. So the old plan is not pertinent to what is actually intended to be built at this point. So, every time we come in with a new proposal, we adjust those numbers to make sure that we're sense or
385 then for the entire complex, the entire...
that's correct.
Or that you'd need all that many at once, say?
No, so this user here would be required to have 21 parking spaces, and so that's what he has around his area. This section in here, depending upon the users that are in there, would drive the need for all of this parking out along.
All the parking in the whole shopping center.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
One other question. I assume the whited area is a spot for folks who are approaching 309 on our villa. White spot, is that a road to get in to the parking
Are we
complex?
talking here or over here?
Right there.
This down here? That's a driveway access into the development.
Is that an exit from the development as well? The straight? It is. Okay. And right only? Yeah, it's restricted to
Okay, any other questions or comments from commissioners? How about from residents? Any questions or comments? All right, so for those of you who don't know, the process tonight is when we talk about it. The next meeting is when we would act upon it, and then we would have a vote one way or the other. So I'll look at my commissioners and see if there's a consensus to move this to the next meeting. Yep, okay. Aaron, we can move this to our next meeting for action. And it remains an active discussion point for commissioners and with staff, with residents between now and then. So we're happy to field any questions or comments anyone has between now and then or on the night that we were to vote.
Or they can ask us as well.
Okay, there, that's great. You made yourself available. Be careful what you ask for.
There you go.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for the explanation. Appreciate it. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, the second item tonight is the BAPS Temple, the 2021 Township Line Road.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. This is the BAPS temple right at the corner of Cowpath and Township Line Road, right where the star is. I think we have a site plan that shows the proposed, here's a rendered site plan that shows the existing building, which is this area that I'm outlining here with the pointer. Then we have the, getting that right? No, I'm not getting that right.
Yeah, that's
This
right.
is all the new in here. This is all the new that's being added, and then the front facade is also the new that's being added. This is an elevation that shows from, this elevation would be from Devlin Drive, which is the new road coming in off of Township Line Road. So this is the new entryway, and then this is the new addition that's being proposed. And then this is the elevation from Devlin, or from Murphy's Way, that would show the side view of the new entry and then the new addition coming in. See the landscaping that's proposed along Murphy's Way, and there's a new basin that's being proposed in this area, new parking which is being established, and a new entryway off of Devlin Way. So the primary entrance into the site will be off of Devlin Way. Secondary entrance, which is the current entrance off of Township Line Road. And then as part of the PennDOT project, there will be sidewalks along Township Line Road, and as part of the Penn Valley Estates project, there will be sidewalks along Murphy's Way and along Devlin Drive as well. The proposal is for approximately 19,000 square feet of new space to the existing temple. The existing development, when the Penn Valley Estates project was approved, there were approximately 2 acres of land that were deeded to BAPS, and that's what enabled this addition to take place. The new parking will be constructed and the new access drive that I described previously. The project's been recommended for approval by the Township Planning Commission and the County Planning Commission. Planning and Zoning Committee has reviewed it as well. And it also received conditional use approval from the Board of Commissioners. That goes back a couple of years, but the board did approve the conditional use approval. The applicants have requested several waivers from the Township's subdivision land development ordinance. It's rather a lengthy list, and I don't know that we need to go through all of them tonight unless the board has particular questions, but there are 3 issues that remain, which I believe Mr. Cunningham, the applicant's engineer, is working with Mr. McAdam on to resolve and see if those 3 issues can be resolved between the 2 engineers between now and the meeting in 2 weeks. So, if Rob, if you wouldn't mind getting up and just explaining what those waivers are, and answering any other questions the board might have.
Sure. Good evening. Rob Cunningham with Holmes Cunningham Engineering. I'm here with members of the BAPS community. Thank you for having us. There are some waivers we are requesting. The ones that are still outstanding to be resolved with Brian and his office relate to grading and slopes and things like that. So there's an existing basin behind the existing building that was constructed as part of, I guess, the original expansion to allow BAPS to occupy the space. Because we're doing an expansion to the rear, we're kind of pinching that. And some of the concerns that Brian has and that we're going to work on resolving is just making sure that there's enough room along this property line and in this area that we can construct our stormwater facilities. We believe that we have stormwater facilities that comply with the ordinances, but we want to make sure that we're not impeding on any of our neighbors, whether that requires us to obtain easements, which we're going to try to avoid, or shifting those improvements away. So those are some of the things that we need to work on. I think there's some clarification on some stormwater stuff related to just providing additional calculations for freeboard and things like that. But those are the extent of what we think are outstanding items that Brian, I think, needs clarification on. So we will get him that in the next couple days to give him some time to review before the next meeting. While I am here, there are a couple things in the letter that I just wanted to bring up. Obviously, I'm here on behalf of BAPS. It is a nonprofit organization. This is an expansion that is a long time coming. Their expansion is related to providing additional services within their buildings. It's not to expand their community or expand their worship area. They're constructing a basketball court inside for recreation of their members. They're expanding their kitchen. They're doing things like that. They're providing some classrooms, additional office space. So two of the things that have come up are related to we're providing an open space area here, which will be left open. It's at the discretion if that is dedicated to the township or not. I don't know the township's position on accepting that. The alternative is providing a fee. And in that effort to understand that they're trying to do this expansion and they're a nonprofit, they were requesting if a fee would be required, that is something that could be waived. The other thing was relating to the traffic impact fee. And again, the folks at BAPS are just hoping there's not an expansion of their community. It's an expansion of the facilities, but though the calculations say that 10 new weekday trips will be added to the transportation network, they are requesting a waiver. They feel that there will be no increase that is felt within the community. So we're just asking you to consider those as potential items that could be waived.
Okay, so what we'll do is, unless there's any questions or comments from anybody, I mean, I agree, it's a long time coming and happy that it's here before us. Jerry, you have something?
So the first waiver for planting, perhaps. I'm hoping we're discussing that idea with the neighbors that are behind that facility. Tear down what's there, have less plantings, and have that building viewable to the neighbors.
We've worked, I've had quite a few conversations with Kim Flanders about this, and they are providing as much as can be physically fit
Right.
in that green space along the new residential development. So in part because the township has some pretty heavy-duty landscaping requirements, and in combination with that and the kind of tight nature of the site and the improvements themselves, as well as the intention to keep that green space open and available, it puts them in a position where they physically can't plant everything that's required. But we have, between planning commission meetings and planning and zoning, and just having a feel for what the board's looking for, we made sure that what they are proposing along the residential property is as packed in as you can get, so that we get a nice looking site.
Also, in this orientation to the southerly side.
Same thing there. Yep. Yeah, and the thing is, there's no buffer requirements because 3 sides of the property fronts on streets. But again, because of the heavy landscaping requirements of the township, we can achieve what effectively becomes buffering all around, except for along Devlin, where it's primarily just going to be street trees. The rest of it, with the combination of the different requirements and the different plant materials that are needed, we can really, we're comfortable that what's going to wind up being constructed and planted will be
quite a nice looking site. And the part along the bottom by the Pico property, where the stormwater management facilities are, there are requirements for plantings in stormwater management facilities. So again, it's going to be pretty darn green. So
Relationship to parking. So I can see where overflow parking might go into that neighborhood. Is there enough parking in that space for maximum capacity for when the,
So we've provided, there's 134 paved parking spaces. Historically, like I mentioned, the community isn't growing. So they only have 48 paved spaces now. What they do now currently is they pull into a gravel and grass area here and park. So we've designed the 134 spaces for maximum capacity. With that said, we've kind of reserved that area there to, in case of during Diwali or other large events, there's space where we don't have to go off-site, which currently now, because we're parking on grass when it is wet and rainy, everybody more than 48 spaces needs to park somewhere else and be shuttled in. So we believe we've resolved any potential issues, but in case of emergency, we feel we have 60 additional parking spaces.
so I get the shuttle, and I'm not sure where they're coming from, it doesn't matter. But on the street that runs parallel to their property, is there parking on both sides of the street?
I believe there is.
I don't believe there is. I think it's one side of the street.
Worry about the overflow parking and what it might present to the neighbors in that development, and making sure that parking spaces to accommodate whatever the capacity might be for.
And we had that in mind, and that was one of the things that when we started this plan, we determined what the maximum cars we would have on site now with the seats in the worship area, and that came to 134. So we knew in case of emergency, I guess it would be known that we're going to have some people, but we have some additional area on site before people are going off site.
And actually, to that point, to alleviate that concern, I know that the township has actually assisted in locating and contacting other locations for shuttles, so that, I mean, even in the worst-case scenario, which I don't think you're going to get to based on what your representations are, there's still options beyond parking into that other neighborhood.
You are correct.
Green on the left-hand side, that again is, you're proposing open space?
Reserved as open space for the community to use, play games, do things like that. But it also meets the requirement in terms of area for the 10% that's required by ordinance.
Just for transparency for the residents of the township and whatnot, have we calculated the amount of the impact fees that you guys are asking for a waiver for? Do we have a dollar amount for that?
The park and rec fee, and I'm not exactly sure, is at the discretion of the Board of Commissioners, so I don't know if there's a fee schedule that's related to or not, but the traffic impact fee is $22,818.80 per McMahon's calculations.
Okay, thank you.
So what we'll do is, well, first let me ask the question. Is there any questions or comments from commissioners? Assuming that we have consensus to move this to our next meeting. Right, okay. So then what we'll do is we'll ask our consultants and staff to do the calculation for us, and then they'll share that with us. And then we'll discuss, and of course, that'll be a part of assuming there's an approval at the next meeting, then that'll be a part of the approval discussion.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions, comments, anyone? No? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, item 3 is the Clemens Food Group, 2700 Clemens Road.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Rogers. At the Clemens Food Group property, which is along 40-foot road, Clemens Road, Thurstein Road, and borders Tillamenson Township. This specific project is a replacement of the existing pre-treatment plant. There is a requirement that Clemens Food Group pre-treat all of their flow that comes out of the plant before it goes into the municipal sewer. And what you're looking at here, and thank you for putting the star on there, Aaron, because this plan gets a little busy. But the existing pretreatment plant is over here where I'm pointing. The new pretreatment plant will be in this location where the star is. There have historically been issues occasionally raised by the neighbors on Kimberly Way, which is this cul-de-sac at the bottom of the sheet, relative to odors and noise from the existing pretreatment plant. You can see that the new location is much further away from any of the residential uses, and it offers an opportunity for some pretty extensive buffering along the municipal line and even into the elements in Township. The property does cross the Township line, but the development itself is taking place in Hatfield. The applicants did meet with Tellamenson Township, and we have an email from the Township manager in Tellamenson, which confirms that there is no need for the Clemens Food Group to go through land development within Tellamenson Township for this project. There have been recommendations from the Township Planning Commission and the Planning and Zoning Committee. It's been discussed at all levels, and it's been reviewed by all of our regular cast of characters here. They've requested a couple of waivers. One is the waiver to combine preliminary and final approval. There's a waiver for storm piping diameter for a private storm sewer system. There's a waiver request for side slopes for an embankment, which again is on private property and is privately maintained. And then the only other waiver that I'm aware of is a requirement that the landscape plan be sealed by a landscape architect. In this case, our landscape architect has no objection to the landscaping plan that was prepared by the applicant's engineer. Andy Freemuth is here for Clemens Food Group, along with representatives from Clemens Food Group if the board has any questions. Otherwise, I believe this is ready for action in 2 weeks.
Clarification. The pre-treatment of waste that's coming from the facilities, for what happens in that facilities for the processing, right?
That's correct, yes. Yes. And that's required per agreement with the sewer authority.
And the pipe diameter, you're making the pipe diameter smaller for stormwater management?
Sure, I think it's 8 inches where 18 is required, and the request is being made because it's a very small drainage area. It's going to be a privately owned system as well.
Chance that would overflow and flood someone in the neighborhood?
I don't believe so. I'm not an engineer, but I've been told we're okay, and I believe your township engineer is okay with the waiver request as well.
Yeah, it's for conveyance piping for a couple of the yard drains that are right near the new tanks. I mean, it's not, the requirement for the 18 inches is primarily for public safety in the public streets and in, for instance, like a commercial parking lot where there might be more of a public safety issue. Relative to where the smaller pipes are on this particular project, they're appropriately sized for what they need to do, and there's zero issue with any kind of public safety concern or even the conveyance of those particular pipes. So we're good.
So is this an expansion or an upgrade?
This is a new plant. The existing plant is going to be decommissioned and abandoned in place, and then there'll be new facilities that are in the area where the star is located.
And is this the process that a lot of the neighbors were complaining about as far as odors?
This new facility is going to be a state-of-the-art facility, very modern, and we anticipate that there'll be a reduction in odors overall.
When would this take place? Roughly. This summer. Okay, it's a 2022 project. That's correct. Completed right in 2022 as well, or is it a lengthy project? Oh, it is, okay. And I didn't mean the whole project, I meant the proper term is that we're using. The waste treatment itself, okay. Any other questions or comments at this time? No? All right, I'll look around. Do we have a consensus to move this to our next agenda? Okay. So we're going to add it to our next meeting's agenda for a motion for approval at that time. And of course, we may have some questions, and if someone reaches out for you, the last, or maybe two people ago, two applicants ago made themselves available, you may have somebody reach out for you and ask you questions as well. Be prepared for that. And so otherwise, we'll see you in 2 weeks, and thank you for coming out.
Thank you. Thanks, Ken.
Okay, that's it for tonight.
All right, for planning and zoning. Okay, we're going to jump into Public Works Committee. Commissioner Lees.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Works has been replacing and repairing inlets ahead of the 2022 road program, as well as repairing any inlets that need work throughout the township. Our ADA contractor met with the township and CKS Engineering to go over our expectations and has begun staging supplies to begin ADA ramp replacements ahead of our paving program. Excuse me. Public Works is assisting the Parks Department with playground preparation, mowing and prepping mulching areas throughout the township. Public Works, as well as a tree contractor, have removed multiple trees throughout the township that were dead or considered to be a hazard. For those of you who don't know, the fire companies are a little short-handed during the day, so we've had several Public Works employees step up. So to date, we have 6 Public Works employees who have signed up to assist the fire department and will begin training shortly. And then wherever they're working in the township, they'll respond to the closest fire company, whether that be Calmer or whether it be Hatfield Fire Company. Public Works is continuing to work with safety and educational training sessions, as well as updating and renewing licenses required by the township. And in April, we hired a new employee in Public Works, excuse me, Andrew Coffey, who is currently a firefighter for the Hatfield Fire Company. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Okay, any questions or comments? No? We're going to move on to Park and Recreation Committee. Commissioner Zimmerman.
Lots going on. Ashley and her crew's been busy. So our May pop-up event is a picnic and plant exchange on Friday the 20th from 4:30 to 5:30 at School Road Park. You can enjoy music, yard games, crafts, hot dogs, and snacks. And be sure to stop by the plant exchange hosted by our Environmental Advisory Council and Shade Tree Commission. As you thin your perennials or dig up seedlings, be sure to pot them and bring them over. Swap them out with items from a neighbor's garden. You never know what you might find. There'll also be a pruning workshop on Saturday, June 4th from 9 to 10 a.m. at the Arboretum. We'll have a presenter from Clark's Landscaping there to talk about pruning. So grab your gardening tools and join us for this workshop. Learn basic skills or improve your existing ones. All levels. Trail cleanup is also that same day afterwards from 11:30 to 1. And our focus areas will be the Nature Center and Fricks Trail, and you can sign up at hatfield.org. We have a bus trip to Atlantic City coming in June. That'll be Friday, June 3rd. We're doing it with Upper Gwynedd Township, so it departs 9:30 from Upper Gwynedd and then leaves Atlantic City to come back home at 6:30, $50 a person. Our programs, our classes, our Get Fit classes. We have Dr. Drill Instructor Program, Beach Muscle Hustle, April 2nd to August 27th. Saturdays from 8 to 9:30, the School Road Park Amphitheater, $100 a person. Alternate registration option, $25 a month. Get Fit Pound, May 3rd to June 7th, Tuesdays, 6:30 to 7:30. At the amphitheater as well, $60 a person. Goat Yoga, really curious.
I've seen it. It's
Might
popular.
have to go watch this one. Saturday, May 14th. There's 2 sessions, one from 10 to 11 and the second one from 11:15 to 12:15 at the Hatfield Community Park. $35 a person per session. International Day of Yoga, Tuesday, June 21st from 7 to 8 p.m. at the Arboretum, and that's free. So again, International Day of Yoga. Our Storytime series for May, the featured book is Dinky Donkey by Craig Smith. Registration's $5 and includes a storybook and activity kit. And again, pick up your kits starting last week through the 13th, Friday. And again, email your pictures of family reading and completing the activities to storybook@hatfield.org by the 23rd. Everybody's favorite, pickleball. Registration is now open. Starts side one was from March to June 3rd, but on Mondays and Fridays, and Wednesdays from 12:30 to 3 at XL Sports. $5 for residents and $50 for non-residents. But I think the outdoor one is coming soon. Specialty camps for the summer: Young Inventors, Junior Physician, Challenger Sports, International Soccer Camp, Cal Sports Basketball Camp. Dates, times, fees, and details available at hatfield.org. And our summer camp is such a big success, it's already sold out. Ashley also wants me to let you all know that some of her projects that are going on in the parks, the cricket pitch at Clemens Park has been installed and is ready for play. Playgrounds, and work on the School Road Park first and the Community Park playgrounds this week, so be sure to check them out. Both new playgrounds are tentatively scheduled for completion by Monday, May 23rd. Got some new equipment out there for different levels and different abilities. Trash cans and recycling receptacles, and they'll be installed in School Road Park and Fricks Trail beginning this month. So that's also a good thing, so while you're walking, you can deposit your water bottle in the recycle.
All right.
Lots going on, like I said.
That is a lot going on.
Mr. President, can I just jump in and piggyback off of Commissioner Zimmerman there? I just wanted to thank the commissioners. Over the last few years, commissioners have made significant upgrades to all of our parks. I think we hear from residents often, and all of us that use the parks, drive into the parks, from compared today and once these playground projects are done, compared to a few years ago, just a massive upgrade. New paving projects, new trails, now brand new playgrounds. And with these playgrounds too, we understand that we're not the ones using them. Chief likes swings, but other than that, so we went to the community. You know, we had a survey through Facebook and social media. We said, what do you want? And when you ask 20,000 people what they want, the answer isn't perfectly clear, but we found a lot out in the process of what they did want, and we were able to incorporate that into our features. So a big new playground coming to School Road, new playground coming behind us here at the community park. You'll see that was torn down just today, the old one, and that had been needed upgraded for years. And these investments are not inexpensive, and appreciate how the commissioners have managed the money over the years and decided to invest, plus the digital signs at the park too. I don't want to forget that as well. But Township put itself in the right position to make these upgrades in a responsible way, I think. And you're going to hear from a lot of the residents soon once these improvements are done. Now, these basically brand new parks, and I'm going to talk about a park expansion here coming up soon. So the commitment to parks in Hatfield is clear. Thank you.
As you said that, you pointed up to the screen, which means you have slides, which
One.
we're not surprised by that. Oh, slide.
Just one.
Okay.
Just a slide.
And speaking of slides, I think this means that we're going to have to change all of our signs that have, the prohibitions that we have. And one of them is going to add is that chief may not use swings or slides. You're not offended by that, right?
If he has a helmet on and pads, knee pads.
True. If you have proper PPE, you should be fine.
Never seen Chief on his lunch break? He's out there swinging away. He really likes it.
Aaron's usually pushing me on the swing. Sight to see.
You'll learn
Look at the time, Chief. Look at the time. Look at the time.
But this is teamwork that really should continue, in my opinion. I'm just saying, that's my opinion.
No,
like to see that
sounds like
video,
a bunch,
too.
sounds like a couple of swingers, I don't know.
Right. Teamwork makes the dream work, chief.
There we go.
That's right.
There we go.
Of course,
All
we
right.
do have one guy who's bailing out on the team, but can't say that.
Oh, you got to learn how to swing yourself.
All right, we're going to move on to our Public Safety Committee report. We have a police report that's very intuitive, a number of different things on this, none of which have anything to do with Chief swinging on a swing or sliding on a slide.
Thankfully.
It does say here that item number one is that it turns out that Chief is a Steelers fan, and that calls into question his authority just generally. But I digress, and I'll move on. Honestly, what we have is a couple of different appointments, or an appointment and a couple of highlights are very significant. First is we have a newly hired police officer, Nicole Sylvia. She started her training with the police department on March 23rd of this year, obviously. She'll be in a car with a training officer for 14 weeks, and thereafter she'll be out on her own for a 1-year probationary period. Of course, we wish Nicole all the best throughout her training process. Our officers made a nice in-progress arrest of an individual who was stealing Cadillac converters from vehicles parked at a local business recently, and charges are now pending. We appreciate the good work that went into getting that in-progress arrest. Following up on a months-long investigation, our detectives made an arrest on a suspect from a case involving phone threats at A.M. Culp School, which is shocking in and of itself. And the police department was able to secure a multi-state warrant, and the suspect would turn himself in on May 10th after flying in from Las Vegas. So that's quite, I know there's a lot of moving pieces and parts to that, and we greatly appreciate that effort. And of course, thanks to our exceptionally kind residents who've made several food donations to a church with direct ties to the Ukraine. They've been extremely thankful for the donations. And last but not least, on a somber note, May 10th marks the 17th anniversary of the passing of Officer William J. Chapman. He's still sorely missed in our community, and of course, one of our biggest nights, if not our biggest night, is the awarding of the Chapman Awards for graduating seniors. And so our best thoughts and prayers are with him and his entire family, even these many years later. So that's it for public safety. We're going to move on to Finance Committee. Commissioner Andrus.
Clarification, somebody was calling from Las Vegas and making... Right.
Have their motives. I can't tell you what they are, but yeah.
Apparently what happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas.
All right, finance report. So this perspective of how we're doing this year, over $2 million in property taxes has been collected so far during discount period. The total amount budget is $3.3 million, and the majority of that, of what will be outstanding, will be collected by end of the discount period, May 30th. Real estate tax, transfer tax is strong, with about 54% of the budget already collected as of the end of April. Collected over $300,000, and what was budgeted was $435,000. So even though the real estate supply is low, the prices are historically high, so the transfer tax is adding some bottom line in our budget. Township has collected over $1 million in earned income tax for 2022, which is about $100,000 higher than it was at this point in 2021, which is also good. Building codes department has been extremely busy with over 50% of the budgeted revenue collected through the end of April. So we're doing a lot of work and some construction going on, so it's also good news for our bottom line. We are on pace to have another successful year from a financial perspective. And I guess the caution sign here is with the volatility of the stock market. Although our next pension valuation is not until the end of April or end of 2023, if the market doesn't bounce back by then, our pension obligation will increase. That'll be something we have to monitor. But overall, as of this year, the financial health of the township looks pretty good. Thank you.
That's good. The economy bounces back for a lot of reasons, not least of which is that, because we don't want to be stuck with a pension obligation.
One comment on that, you know, people I think sometimes get confused when they get their tax bill as far as the Hatfield Township tax. The county tax has gone up, the community college tax has gone up, and the school tax has gone up, but Hatfield Township's tax. People get really confused on that.
All right, we're going to jump into the manager's report. Aaron, you and your slide.
One slide tonight, Mr. President, unless you guys want more. I'm sure we can come up with something, but just
word
one.
count I'm worried about.
It's just
The swing, the other one's on the slide.
So speaking of investment in the parks and expansion of parks and the commitment to parks and recreation here in Hatfield, commissioners received a grant a few months ago for $250,000 to expand Clemens Park. We have a local match and a contribution of about $300,000, so that this project roughly $600,000 as of now. Our grant writer is pursuing more funds as well because the cost of everything continues to rise. But now that the money is secured, we go from what was a concept plan. We went through the whole process for years making a master plan. A master plan is more of a pretty picture. I mean, it's taking concepts from the community, but it's not an engineered plan. So now that the engineers are at it, there's been some slight changes, and I just wanted to show the community and the board some of the shifts. So right now, this is the massive basin in Clemens Park where the road drives through. It was always the intention to remove that road, which we will still do, and have that just be a stormwater basin, which is what it's supposed to be, and not an entrance. And the new entrance is as proposed originally, but on that original set of plans, we showed a public bathroom over here where my cursor is, and a playground over here, and some other parking, and just based on the engineering and the mostly topography, some things had to be shifted around. So the parking instead will be over here. This area here will be the playground, and again, just a reminder too, this is going to be an inclusive playground, meaning it's for all kids, all abilities, all levels, from whatever ability to an Olympic athlete. And we've reached out. We had some residents from Hatfield come to the Township building in the last few months, some young guys in wheelchairs, and we talked to them about what would they like to see, and they gave us a lot of interesting feedback, and we met some great residents in Hatfield that helped us design this, and we're still in that process. But the playground itself will be there. Public bathroom will be here, which will look identical to the one in School Road Park. This area here is designated for a future site of one of those fitness courts. It's part of a national fitness campaign. We have a group of residents that's looking to raise some money to help contribute toward that project. And then of course, we know this will be the garden that the township has partnered with. So the parking will serve the garden and its volunteers. It will also serve anybody coming to the playground to use the bathroom and to walk the trails, as well as all the parking that's currently in Clemens as well. None of that will be removed. So this is just the section of the park that will be improved, and hoping to be finalizing engineering over the coming months and then putting together a bid package maybe in the fall and work to begin in the spring of 23. So that's where we're heading, and hoping to secure a little more funding along the way just to make sure that we can do everything that we have committed to do. Going to be a completely different park when done. Thank you.
Benefit of moving that, the other side of the road is that the kids decide.
Yeah, it's a safer location as well. Yeah, you're right, Commissioner.
All right, any other questions, comments? Aaron, anything else under manager's report?
That's it for tonight, Mr. President.
Okay, solicitor's report.
Nothing to report tonight.
Right, that's always good to hear. Citizens' comments. Any citizens' comments? All right, hearing none, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Lees.
Second.
Before we do that, do we have executive session?
We'll have one after the meeting to discuss contract negotiations.
You have to announce that and that you're not returning after that.
My solicitor told me that I need to announce exactly what he just said, which is that we're going to an executive session to discuss contract negotiations, and that we will not be returning after we entertain a motion to adjourn, which I'll do now. And I believe there was a motion by Commissioner Lees and a second by Commissioner Zimmerman. Yes? Vice President Rogers? Somewhere over on my right-hand side. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thanks for coming out, folks.